Hello and welcome to the new style Edexcel GCSEs. These are the ones that go from grades 9 through to grade 1. This is the second paper in the higher tier mathematics. It's entitled 1MA1/2H. It is a calculator paper and we're given 1 hour and 30 minutes. We're told we must have a ruler graduated in centimetres and millimetres, a protractor, a pair of compasses, a pen, a HB pencil, eraser and calculator. With regard to the pair of compasses, make sure that when you open them out, they stay open at that level that you open them out to. A cheap pair of compasses will often, after the first one or two uses, they'll start to fall back. Some compasses have a little screw that you can tighten, and that helps them to stay open. Not all compasses do. And some compasses, the pen can keep dropping in and out. Or the pencil rather. You don't want that. You want to be able to draw nice neat circles consistently with your compasses. So make sure your compasses are of good quality. You don't want to lose valuable marks for the sake of a cheap pair of compasses. With regards to your calculator, make sure it's the kind of calculator that you're used to. Make sure it's your own calculator. Try not to borrow, obviously you will have to borrow someone else's calculator if yours breaks, but try not to get into that situation. You don't want to be sat in the exam worrying about where the buttons are on your calculator, and also you want to know if your calculator has any specific quirks. Like some calculators are algebraically programmed and some aren't. In fact, I would like to show you that. With regards to this scientific version of this Windows calculator, if I type in something like 2 plus 3 times 5, it gives me the correct answer, which is 17. That's because we evaluate multiplication before we evaluate the addition. Now if I go into standard mode, it's not programmed like that, it just does the calculations in the order that we type them in. So if I type the exact same thing, 2 plus 3 times 5, what it gives me is 25, because it did the 2 plus 3 first and then it multiplied 5 times 5 is 25, and that would be wrong. So it's important to know your calculator's quirks before you go into the exam, so you know what order to type buttons in, not just what buttons to type. Okay, so the instructions were given. Use black ink or ballpoint pen. Fill in the boxes at the top of this page with your name, centre number and candidate number. These two are very important. If you use blue ink, some scanners can't photocopy or can't scan the blue ink, and you'll end up with a blank page, and the examiner can't see your work, can't therefore mark your work. And with the boxes at the top, if you don't fill those in, even if the examiner can mark your work, they can't award those marks to you because they don't know who you are. I know it's easy in the stress of the exam to just want to get straight in and start writing, but it's so important that you make sure that that information is correct so that any marks you do earn are awarded to you. It says answer all questions. I would take that with a pinch of salt. If you don't know the answer to a question, just move on and do another question. Don't waste time staring at a question when you don't know how to answer it. Hoover up all the marks that you can get and then come back to that question at the end if you have time. Answer the questions in the spaces provided. There may be more space than you need. Do not write outside of the boxes, because often these papers are photocopied or scanned, and that boxes are the area that is actually scanned, and anything that's written outside of the boxes, it isn't scanned or photocopied. The examiner doesn't see it and cannot mark it. Diagrams are not accurately drawn unless otherwise indicated, so you can't just take your protractor and measure an angle, or take your ruler and measure, unless it specifically says that the drawing is to scale. You must show all your working out. That is very important. Often you get marks for how you've worked out, so you don't just get marks for getting the right answer, you also get marks for how you work it out. The total mark for this paper is 80. The marks for each question are shown in brackets. Use this as a guide to how much time to spend on each question. Well, you've got 80 marks and 1.5 hours. 1.5 hours is 90 minutes. So that gives you roughly 1 mark for each question with 10 minutes at the end to check your work. So we're given some advice. Read each question carefully before you start to answer it. Keep an eye on the time. Try to answer every question. Check your answers if you have time at the end. All very good advice, and the only thing I would try to add to that is make sure you go to the toilet before you sit your exam. There's nothing worse than having to go to the toilet in the middle of an exam. Not only is it distracting for other students and for yourself, but it also, you don't get extra time allocated to you, so you've wasted time, and as we just calculated, time is marks. Okay then, so picking up in question 1, it says Frank, Mary and Seth shared some sweets in the ratio of 4 to 5 to 7. Seth got 18 more sweets than Frank. Work out the total number of sweets they shared. Okay, so let's call the total number of sweets they shared X. So let's start off with Seth because he got the most sweets. So Seth got 18 more sweets than Frank. So what proportion of X did Seth get? Well, they're shared in the ratio of 4 to 5 to 7. So Seth, he got 7 out of a total of 4 plus 5 is 9, 9 plus 7 is 16. So Seth got 7/16 of X, whereas Frank only got 4/16 of X. And we know that Seth got 18 more sweets than Frank, so we know that the difference between what Seth got and what Frank got is 18. And now it's just simple algebraic manipulation. 7x minus 4x is 3x. Multiplying by 16, 3x is equal to 18 times 16. So x is equal to 18 times 16 over 3. Shoving that into our calculator. 18 times 16 divided by 3 is equal to 96. Okay, I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.